Welcome to the latest episode of SSCI Insights, where we speak with our key partners and members of the CGF's Sustainable Supply Chain Initiative to hear their thoughts on responsible sourcing, procurement, and sustainability standards. Today, I am very pleased to be joined by two of our colleagues from BRCGS, the very first scheme to achieve SSCI recognition. So today, I'm with Angela O'Donovan, Head of Standards at BRCGS, and Karen Betts, Head of Compliance at BRCGS. Karen and Angela, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi.
So first, if I can ask you both, just can you say a few words? What is BRCGS and what does it do?
So, hi, I'm Angela O'Donovan. So BRCGS is a market-leading global brand that helps build confidence and trust in the supply chain. Our global standards set the benchmark for good manufacturing practice and help provide assurance to customers that their products are safe, legal, authentic, and of high quality. We've evolved from the British retail experts into an established global standards leader with a rigorous assurance program that touches every aspect of the 21st century supply chain. And that's from food, ingredients to packaging, storage and distribution, e-commerce, gluten-free, and retail. And we've actually taken this one step further to ensure the supply chain is transparent from an ethical and responsible sourcing point of view, with the launch of the Global Standard for Ethical and Responsible Sourcing a few years ago. So, as we've expanded into new markets across the globe, we've kept innovating to stay ahead of the rapid changes affecting the globe and affecting every sector. We've actually built the world's most rigorous supply chain assurance programs that protect brand reputation and ultimately deliver consumer safety. Now, the BRCGS standards are used by over 30,000 sites in 130 countries across the globe. Our food safety standard was the first to be benchmarked by GFSI. In fact, BRCGS certification impacts on $800 billion of global food sales. And actually, we're celebrating 25 years this year since the first BRC meeting.
That is all so impressive. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's great to hear all of the great things that you're doing at BRCGS. And as you mentioned, you were benchmarked by the Sustainable Supply Chain Initiative. So congratulations on being the first scheme to achieve SSCI recognition. Can you share with us, Angela, just a little bit about why BRCGS decided to apply for SSCI benchmarking?
Sure. So consumers and investors are a lot more aware today and have greater concerns about the provenance of their purchases and investments. Many don't want to inadvertently buy products affected by human exploitation and environmental destruction. And as a result, there are hundreds of assurance schemes that have sprung up, often under the guise of ethical trade, all aiming to alleviate these concerns relating to human exploitation. However, it's apparent that many of these schemes underperform, and it can be challenging for organizations to know which scheme to trust. BRCGS certification is a trusted mechanism already, so our standards are well established and accepted as delivering results that brands can trust. Recent independent studies carried out by the London University of Birkbeck have demonstrated that manufacturers operating to BRCGS standards deliver better compliance with regulation, deliver safer food, and have fewer product recalls. Our food safety standard was the first to be recognized by GFSI. Our SSCI recognition replicates and complements the approach we have followed with GFSI, and SSCI recognizes credible and trustworthy schemes and programs. And we believe our ethical and responsible standard is credible and trustworthy, and that's why we applied for SSCI benchmarking.
Thank you for that, Angela. Now, just speaking of the process of going through the SSCI benchmark, Karen, I was wondering if you could tell us what are some key takeaways and learnings that you had from the actual benchmarking process itself?
Yeah, so I think it was a learning curve for both of us, for both BRCGS and SSCI, since we were the first scheme to go through the process. So I'm sure that SSCI have also looked internally about the key learnings and how they handled the process steps. Our ethical standard has been developed by a multi-stakeholder working group of global experts who provided advice and guidance as to the content of the standard and its protocol, which we've enveloped within our current quite mature compliance processes. And as with all audits that have an independent eye cast over our processes, it's always good to be challenged and to be asked why and how. I guess it gave us the opportunity to step back and look and explain in some instances to see where we needed to be a bit clearer, a bit more detailed in our explanations. So our standard is supported by infrastructure such as auditor training and interpretation guidelines. So we were able to perfect some of those materials to ensure it's suitable for a global market. And as with all things, clarity is the key, as some of the details we found were a bit lost in translation, so that we were able to reiterate some clearer principles. And as with any standard, we found that the best advice would be to be prepared, have the evidence available. SSCI provide a template to be completed as a self-assessment as step one, which provides a basis for discussion and the audit trails, which was very helpful, along with an audit plan of the areas and timelines which guided our expectations during the audit process. So we had a number of conversations that they were all virtual, something that we've all had to get used to over the last 18 months. But we're probably now very adept at having virtual meetings, and it wasn't a problem for us as it allowed us to easily share documents that we hold centrally on our systems and our database.
Fantastic. Well, it's definitely a long, complex process, but it sounds like it was really mutually beneficial for the SSCI and for BRCGS in getting to improve your certification standard throughout this journey. And Angela, you mentioned that BRCGS has been benchmarked by the Sustainable Supply Chain Initiative and its sister benchmark at the CGF, the Global Food Safety Initiative. So in a more global sense, why is benchmarking so important for our industry's responsible sourcing journey?
Well, firstly, the benchmarking process is independent and it's been designed exclusively for third-party auditing, monitoring and certification schemes like BRCGS Global Standards. And it's based on criteria developed by Consumer Goods Forum members, also external supply chain and sustainability experts, and intergovernmental organizations and NGOs, and it really sets the bar for what the industry expects from third-party auditing and monitoring and certification schemes. And secondly, by going through the benchmarking process, the program owner will ensure that their scheme meets all of the criteria that these experts have identified as making it credible and trustworthy. And it ensures customers can trust the certification regardless of where in the world the certification has been granted. And like I said earlier, there are so many different schemes available at the moment, and consumers need to be able to distinguish between them. And like GFSI, the SSCI benchmark is a globally recognized benchmark that adds an additional layer of credibility and due diligence that allows consumers, customers, and investors trust in the brand, regardless of where it is sourced in the world.
I like that metaphor of the layers. So you have this kind of foundational credibility that comes from the scheme itself. And then on top of that, with SSCI recognition, it's just an additional kind of reinforcement of the trust that's there in that standard. So thank you. And so for my last question, Karen, what message would you share with any other schemes considering SSCI benchmarking as not only one of the first schemes to apply for benchmarking, but of course the first scheme to achieve recognition?
Yeah, so as we were outlining, we've got expertise in global quality and safety management systems over the last 25 years, and we have a heritage in retail. So we recognise the need for consistent global ethical trade and responsible sourcing standards. Consumers need to make confident choices that extend beyond the physical boundaries of the product, safe in knowledge that they are protecting the rights of those who produce goods or provide services wherever in the world they are. As we've discussed, the industry landscape for ethical trade and responsible sourcing standards remains fragmented, a bit crowded, and without a universal benchmarking framework. So as we're aligned with the SSC mission to provide industry with a trusted benchmark on which schemes are credible and reliable, it offers a genuine pathway that gives consumers the reassurance they seek and the workers the protection they deserve. So the message is definitely go for it and start the process. As we've outlined, the journey to benchmarking was smooth and the recognition, we believe, a benefit to our scheme.
Thanks so much for that, Karen. I think that was a perfect message to end our interview on, and the protection workers deserve and the trust and confidence that consumers need. That's definitely what we're trying to achieve with the SSCI. So Karen, Angela, thank you so much for joining us for today's interview as the first SSCI recognized scheme. It's been a great pleasure to speak with you about your journey and what you do and how it's all fitting into our mission to build trust and sustainability standards worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.